My first got it.
You got it. Go.
I got it. Okay.
You got your second, got it.
I got, okay. Am I live now?
Yes, you're
Mm.
live.
I'm live. I'm so excited. Welcome, 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 everyone to Inspire, Innovate, Ignite Conversations That Count. We're hosted tonight by Sacred Love, and I'm Sue Rumack, your facilitator. And I'm so excited that you're here. So if you've ever been to one of our panel groups before, you'll know that you are about to be inspired by our expert panelists who share innovative self-empowerment tips that will enrich your life. This series will help you to understand the topics at a deeper level so you become empowered to integrate the tips and discussion elements into your day-to-day life. At least that's what we're going to hope for. Tonight's topic is sacred spaces, redefining why, where, and how people create trusted sacred spaces. So when we think about it, in our 2024 world, it's very uncertain. Sensitive people like empaths and HSPs are feeling the profound need to cultivate spaces of spiritual significance, questioning the very essence of why and where and how we establish our self-sustaining inner sacred realms. Our expert panelists come together tonight to redefine the concept of sacred spaces, exploring the intersection of tradition and innovation. So our captivating panel of Christine Davies, Beverly Ackhurst, and Anik Patre are going to be leading us through some exciting perspectives on the purpose and design of inner and outer sacred spaces that resonate with our multidimensional human spirit. And we're going to be leaving thinking a little more deeply, at least that's our intention, about how our own sacred spaces look and feel and how they impact our collective well-being and spiritual connection in an ever-evolving world. Now, I'm about to stop talking, and I'm going to ask our wonderful panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about why sacred spaces, the redefining of where and why and how, got you kind of excited about being on this panel. I'm going to start with Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo. I'm going to start with Beverly first. Go ahead, Bev.
Hey. Hi, Sue. Good to see you again and everyone here. So how do I define sacred spaces? Funny little story that you don't know. I teach a program called Sacred Living, and one of the sections is sacred spaces. So this is very, very connected to my heart. That's why I love this topic. Sacred spaces, we get used to using words and minimizing them to mean one thing that we think they mean rather than looking at our whole life. And for me, sacred spaces are the whole of our life. So I tend to put things into the layers of the koshas, the Sanskrit, where the bodies that we live in. We live in the 5 bodies, the first one being physical. So in a physical space, what is a sacred space? Well, this is what I exist around. This is how I create sacred space. I have bits of nature everywhere, and I make sure I'm always connecting to nature through what I'm living with inside and outside. Sacred spaces are the garden I keep outside. There's chickens out there, and it's how I attend to that. The sacred spaces are also internal in our body. And I think that's forgotten, is that there's an internal practice of having sacred space in here. If you're full of dark thoughts and bad feelings and old stories, it's really hard to hold space for the sacred. You're instead holding space for all the things that can just pull us outside of ourselves. And then there's the mental body, the thoughts, the stories, how we create memories and hold on to memories and context that we believe is true rather than letting them metamorphosize into things that can be beautiful and sacred, taking that dark memory and mulching it down to a thing that can be usable. So all this is sacred space. And what we surround ourselves with, what we think of all the time, is what creates us. So massively important for me to live there. I didn't used to. It changed over time, and this is where I've arrived at, and who knows how that will metamorphosize in time. If I end up living in the woods, it's going to be a different sacred space, but here is where I start.
And we are so excited to have you on this panel because I think you've already brought so much value to it. Thank you so much, Beverly. I'm going to ask Christine, who's never been on one of our panels before, to take the deep dive and tell us just a teeny little bit about yourself and why this topic excites you.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to get to know you all and this beautiful community. So, I am a Presbyterian minister, a hospital chaplain, and a spiritual director. And I often journey with people outside of traditional religious settings with individuals who are suffering and a lot of times going through grief and loss. And I was especially drawn to this topic of sacred space and thought of the term, there's a Celtic Christian term that describes locations as thin places. And some people have defined the thin place as the rare locale where the distance between heaven and earth collapse. Or I might say it's a location where it might be easy to be attuned to the presence of the divine. So for me, it might be a place that I've made a pilgrimage to, like Iona or Yosemite or the cathedral at Notre Dame, places that are just so grand and majestic. But I also think that we have to expand the idea of those thin places and the sacred spaces, not just to the geographic locations, but to that mindset and how we're impacted there, similar to what Beverly was talking about. And I really associate the sacred space with the same way that I define what is spirituality to a lot of the people that I encounter when I walk into a hospital room and they don't know what to do with me. They say I'm not religious. I said, okay, but you probably are spiritual, right? And that is the connection to oneself, the connection to others around them, friends or family or community, and then the connection to the transcendent. For some people, that might be God. For some people, that's the universe. For some people, that's nature. And so I think of a sacred space as existing in any three of those realms. And bonus points if it can exist all three of those realms at the same time, but really being a place inside of us or external to us that we can return to be nourished and fed spiritually.
Whoa, I think we've got an incredible panel already. And now, and Nick, you've got some splaining to do, honey. Can you tell us a little bit about you and what gets you excited about sacred spaces?
Yeah, first of all, Christine and Beverly, yeah, I really resonate with you shared. It's really beautiful and yeah, sacred space. I'm a fan. Well, I'm Annick Patry. You probably noticed my accent and my name. I'm French Canadian from Montreal, and I ran away from the snow. And I've been living in Australia for 22 years. I help heart-centered entrepreneurs on a mission to embody their highest lucrative joy and to own their creative power. So I'm an intuitive business mentor. I'm a spiritual companion, I'd say, and a retreat facilitator, voice and sound healer. And I've written a book, an international bestselling author, and a TEDx speaker. Okay, so that's me. Now the sacred space. Sacred space, it to me is like everything is sacred. And a sacred space is a place where truth exists, where love exists, where trust is available. A sacred space is happening in my home, is happening in my office, is a place of is happening. It's a temple. Like my body is a sacred space. My body is a sacred temple. You know, every relationship is a sacred. We have to create a sacred space to engage with another human being, especially when we're in in a mentoring session or healing session. There's that energy. It's an energy. The energy there is sacred. It's like a safe, solid, sacred container. And I think we create that by simply setting an intention. a sacred intention that this space right now, this conversation is sacred. It's very sacred to just show up and to share our heart and to share our wisdom. So, yeah, I'm super passionate about the sacredness of life and the sacredness of our missions and the sacredness of places, and of relationship. I think it's really important to become aware and conscious of sacredness.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You've given us another version of sacred spaces. So thank you, Nick. Appreciate that. My first question, I have a list of questions that I've sent out to our panelists in advance. And of course, we're never going to get through all of them. But since each one of you has already given us so much about sacred spaces, my first question was, how do individuals define and experience sacred spaces in their own lives? And how has this definition evolved over time? I'm going to let you, that's a two-parter, and you can answer whichever part or both parts as you choose. I think we're going to start with Christine this time, and then we'll go to Beverly, and then we'll finish with Anik on this question. How do individuals define and experience sacred spaces in their own lives? That's first half. Or how has this definition evolved over time? Which
Yeah, so I think I can share a little bit about my personal journey here in especially growing up in a very traditional, religious element of things. I thought the only place I could feel a sacred connection was in church. And I have evolved to come to realize that is not the case. And in fact, a lot of times I feel more sacred outside of a sanctuary, and really pulling in aspects of nature and the ways in which that can help us walk the soul home to really dwell in the creation. Other places that I have been surprised that have been sacred in my work is over Zoom. I never thought there was going to be sacredness that happens over Zoom, but here we are, in our conversation today, or when meeting individually with spiritual directees. And then also I've seen the hospital rooms really transform into sacred spaces. When a family is saying goodbye to their loved ones and surrounding them in love and intention, there is something, it's very hard, but it's also very beautiful, and in a way can be this really a significant time, where it feels like that thin place. It feels like, there is just a thin veil separating us from this world and the next.
I can really appreciate that. If I may, and I'm supposed to be the facilitator, not a participant, but when my ex-husband was dying, and he was a spiritual leader, and he, during the week that he was in intensive care, he was singing prayers the entire time, night and day. He just sang the prayers, and it was such a joyful place. He didn't know he was dying, but he knew that he wasn't in this world anymore. He knew he was between worlds. And so as he sang the prayers, the nurses and the doctors and other people would kind of come into his room, and the guests would come. And it was a very beautiful experience for our daughters and for all of us who were there with him, to be on that journey with him. We didn't create the sacred space. He did. And he could have been singing Beatles songs, and it still would have been a sacred space. So what you're saying is such a beautiful gift to give to our listeners. I'd like to welcome Cecilia. She's, I believe, a guest, one of our audience. So welcome. If you have any questions, please put them into the chat. I'm just seeing there is a message in chat. Let me see what it says. It says, hi, Cecilia. Anik has already welcomed Cecilia. How kind of you. So good to see you here from all of us. Thank you for taking that first step, Anik. Okay. Who would like to go next? Anik or Beverly?
I'm open. I'll go ahead
Go
if
ahead.
that's okay, Annick. Okay.
Really?
I think because
I'll
love
repeat the question again, just so
Yeah.
it's clear in your mind. How do individuals define and experience sacred spaces in their lives? Or you could answer the second half or both. How has this definition evolved over time?
Mhm. Yeah. It's a well-formed question. It all fits. I love what
Mm.
you both shared in the story of your husband passing, because of course, individuals all have their own way, but again, I think so many people have been told that to have the sacred experience, it has to be within a church setting or something, a
Mm.
sacred temple of some form. And we forget that this is a temple. And I think a lot of individuals are starting to come back to that knowledge that this is a temple. We came from a room, same root word. And that womb was sacred space. And we were formed within that. We've come into this. It's just another earth womb, and this is a sacred space. So to remind ourselves that that we inhabit is still this vessel that is very sacred, that holds us, contains us, moves us through, sings for us, dances for us, feels emotionally for us, that there's a sacredness, and sacred is from the root words for sweetness and for blood. And that sweetness, a sukkar of the sacred, is the sweetness of finding those spaces. For me, nature is it. And I would actually, as part of the second part of the question, how the definitions evolved over time, I would suggest that we are actually coming full circle, that nature in and of itself was the sacred, that understanding of our connection, how everything is in service of each other, that what we do with animals, with plants matters because that will return what comes back to us. And I think we're coming back full circle to that space where nature was the space of the sacred, the food we eat, the company we keep,
Mhm.
where we sit, where we see what's the rainbow that we see in the sky. That's the sacred moment, that inspirational moment. And I really honestly believe that for whatever anyone's individual definition of it is, that there's always this desire. There's something inside of us that no matter what goes on is calling us back to that. And we know at the moment we just stop in our tracks because a flower is so beautiful that we can't help but be with it. Or a child, a new baby looks at you and you just melt. I think
Mm.
all of that is the sacred. And we're coming back slowly but surely to that place.
So what you're saying then is that the sacred is evolving from what was originally traditionally considered to be the only places that were sacred were the sacred sites. And now it's
Yeah.
evolving into becoming
Yeah.
more a thought that's more widespread, that sacredness could be anywhere, including our own bodies.
Absolutely. It can be sitting on your couch, but yeah, I would, and I'll try and make this very, very quick. I just want to add, because you said something very important, I think. If you suffer trauma and you go into a freeze response, the only way through is to go back through the fight or flight response. And there is a belief, if you follow Stephen Porges, that when you come out the other side of it, you're more evolved than where you started, even in that good place. And I think that's the same thing with the sacred. We started there. We've had to go through all this trauma of these centuries of living, and we're coming out the other side. And within that is some deep evolution of our understanding of sacred, of this spiritual way of being.
I agree with you. And I also believe that as each person evolves, we kind of touch the next person and bring them along with us. So our experience changes them as well. At least that's my perspective. And Nick, I'm going to bring it back to you now. So the question was, how do individuals define and experience sacred spaces in their own lives? The other half of the question, you can answer both or only one. How has this definition evolved over time?
I'd say that it's very personal to each human being how they experience the sacred. First of all, if they are open to sacredness, it's extremely personal, that experience of sacredness. I can talk about my own personal experience of what sacredness is for me and how it's evolving. But I think it's so personal because everyone's gonna looks at life with different glasses and have a different map of the world. So for some, there's fear around sacredness. They had traumatic experience around religion or spirituality. For some people don't believe it at all. So you know what I mean? It's a really but because we're in sacred youth, sacred you country, I assume that all of you watching here, you're into the sacred juju. I guess I want to bring that. It's actually not that serious. You know what I mean? Sacred, like, I can hear the tone of all of us like being really, it's not serious. Like, we're not going to come alive from this human experience. We're gonna go, this physical body is gonna disappear. But in the meantime, I think for me anyway, how I experience sacredness and how I share about it in my sacred safe containers where I do my mentoring and my healing work is being appreciative of life. Like, appreciating life is sacred. Like, really honoring that you get up in the morning and you have a healthy body and you are open to infinite possibilities in your day, that you're the creator and you can create sacredly a sacred space full of joy and full of laughter and full of possibilities and miracles. You can actually make that choice and align with that vibration, with that energy, that in your sacred space today, in your sacred office, you're going to enter, or the work you're doing, you're going to enter in that space with an open heart and appreciating life. And that is sacred in itself.
I think that, and Nick has just demonstrated for us how the definition of sacred has evolved. So thank you. I don't think anybody could have done that better.
Yeah, I mean, I've written three things. I was listening to the other ladies. I'm like, listen, this is great juju, but presence, that's sacredness, being present here and now. Okay. No holding back. There's no constriction, constipated belief. There's no holding back in sacredness. Sacred is abundant. Sacred is infinite. Sacred is connected to everything and everyone. So presence, a quality of presence, appreciation, love, gratitude, whatever you want to call it, appreciating this space right now that we have this time together to share consciousness, to share about sacredness, and awareness, being aware, like when I'm out of sacredness or when I'm in sacred, a sacred space.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's a wonderful learning piece that you've just given to our audience. And I love the way that you introduced that. I have an important question. The next question is ready. Are we ready? Is everybody ready? Okay. So what roles do sacred spaces play in promoting mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being? So I think we're going to start with Beverly this time. What roles do sacred spaces play in promoting mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being?
I think if they're actually utilized, they can create an intention. They create an intentional way of being presence. We can be rushing around all day long, doing whatever we do. But if we treat something, as Anik was just saying, bonjour, you step in and you go, okay, I'm arriving here. It's as simple as that. If I teach a yoga class, it's like, okay, we are going to arrive, just a breath is enough to take you out of all the stuff you're doing and bring it to the point of your presence and your existence here, now, in this moment, nothing more. And I think that is how sacred spaces come about, how it gives us a mental health that we need. It's really not this big esoteric idea. If you stop, you breathe, boom, you're here. You've come back from wherever you wandered off to that doesn't exist yet, and you're here. You're paying attention to this moment. And what's more sacred than having the experience of where we are, when we are, as we are, without judgment? There can't be judgment when all you're paying attention to is a breath. There can't be all the other stuff, our stories, our angst, all of it. A sacred space is a container that you set in the simplest way that allows you to step back and just look at everything, become an observer. We are being dragged around by the 10 horses, all our senses. And either you let the horses run you off a cliff, which is what we're kind of doing a lot of the time, or you say, whoa, driver, hey, driver, I'm this space, this is mine. So pull back on the reins. Let's arrive. I want to go on this journey over here. Again, it's a big thing when you're suffering with mental illness. It's a big thing when you're going through the hard times. But just because the thing is big doesn't mean the practice of the sacred has to be. And you can realize that the scales aren't weighed the same. All the stuff out there, it's a lot of it to bring us down, but it's one little thing on this side of the scale that does this. So
Brings us
sacred
back to
space
balance.
is us. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Christine now, because I have a feeling that Christine's going to build on what Beverly just said.
I mean, Beverly, you took all the words out of my mouth. I think it is so much about the intentionality and the gratitude. I think that is so much a part of it. Maybe I'll take a different angle and talking about, sacred spaces, extending beyond, we talked about like the individual before, but also in the communal ways in which they come about. So Martin Buber talks about the I thou, and Anik talked about this before, like it's between us, it's between individuals as well. So I think sacred spaces are also forged, within the bonds of friendship, the solidarity of those shared experiences and the collective meaning making that can happen. So for some, that might be through a support group meeting, a community service project, or a simple gathering of loved ones around the dinner table. Those spaces that are a refuge from the chaos of the world that you're talking about before, that really nurture the seeds of spiritual growth and connection in that way. And so when I think about the social and spiritual connection that happens, I think there's so much evidence there, how that really impacts well-being, both from an emotional perspective and mental health perspective, as well as a physical health perspective. So many studies talk about the importance of socialization to extend one's life, and how much it drives that outcome, and the fact that we're just so hardwired for that connection, which can ultimately sustain us and nourish us.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I love the way that you and Beverly have built off of each other, and I would invite Anik to continue those thoughts, please.
Can you repeat your question?
I'd love to. I just have to get back into my questions, so bear with me just a second. My phone turned itself off because it's annoying.
Do you want me to read it?
Go ahead,
yes, please.
I've got it right here.
If you wouldn't mind, that would be just great. That'd be fabulous. Oh my God.
What role do sacred spaces play in promoting mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being?
What's coming up for me is safety. Like if it's in a working environment, promoting mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Creating safety is creating sacredness, creating some boundaries, and the way you can do that is obviously by communication, by naming what's going to happen. It's like it's really how we talk to ourselves internally is going to create a feeling. So how we communicate, I think part of creating sacred is creating safety, and to be able to create safety and sacredness is how you feel and how you communicate is really important. Is the energy that you bring to the table. It's like if you go to if you have friends over to dinner for dinner, if you create this table with love, with care, with sacredness, you put beautiful candles and beautiful flowers, and you create a space, and it's going to create a feeling. They're going to arrive, oh my gosh, this is beautiful, it's so warm, it's so inviting, I feel so welcomed and loved up by this beautiful creation, by this beautiful space. It's the same thing like well-being. You can reach well-being when a safe container and a sacred container is in place. So it starts by, we were talking about the temple, the inner temple, the body, the mindset, the communication, the environment you're in. I mean, it's a whole shebang of things, it's a step-by-step process where everything counts. Everything has its place and has value in creating a safe, sacred container to promote well-being. That's how really I see it. It's holistic. It's a holistic, a whole experience. And allowing ourselves to make mistakes in that. Sacred doesn't mean perfect. Life is not perfect. We're human beings. We have shadows. And even God, I mean, God, even the divine would say, hey, I give you a human experience, go and learn about life. But you know what I mean? You're going to tumble and stumble. And anyway, this is English for me here. Boom, boom, bam, bam. You're going to make mistakes. And that's okay. That can be sacred as well, because forgiveness and empathy and compassion is part of the learning human experience, and it's sacred as well. But the more we practice that within ourselves, the more we embody that sacredness within, with what I said before, presence, appreciation, awareness, and acceptance. I would bring. I mean, it's deep topic. Like you can go deep with this, really. And
that's why we brought it to the table today.
Yeah, we brought it to the table. And so, yeah, like really being aware and intentionally having the desire for the well-being of my peers, of humanity, of the people I serve, of people around me, but starting by really having a strong desire for my own well-being in the first place, mental, emotional, and physical, and spiritual.
Okay, so you have talked about how you have explained how your personal perspective on promoting the mental and the emotional and the spiritual well-being is done through the divine, the sacred in yourself first. Thank you.
In a nutshell, yeah, I guess.
In a nutshell. Well, you have to bring it all back. Cecilia, one of our audience, has asked if she could respond to the same question. So Cecilia, if you'd like to bring yourself back on camera and unmute, if you can, we still have one more question if we can get to it, but I don't think we're going to get to it. Please bring your comment. We'd love to hear it.
You disappear, Cecilia.
I think she may have walked away from the well, you know what? We'll try her again. We have about 15 minutes left. So I'd like to ask one more question that's going to be very, very, very short. answer, very short, and then we'll get to an opportunity for you to talk about yourselves a little bit. And so our audience gets to know you a little bit better, and to let them know what your offer is going to be as a gift to them for having watched through the entire hour. So I think my next question, I've got 3 possibilities. I love this one. In what ways can sacred spaces be inclusive and welcoming to people from diverse backgrounds and belief systems? So Christine, we'll start with you on this one. In what ways can sacred spaces be inclusive and welcoming to people from diverse backgrounds and belief systems?
No, I think first and foremost, if sacred spaces can foster an atmosphere of hospitality and welcome and acceptance, where people are really encouraged to bring themselves forth and their unique perspective and being celebrated for that. I think that can help to cultivate a sense of belonging to the sacred space. And really, that there's such a richness. I think I do a lot of interfaith work, so I think there's a richness to it that it only makes the sacred space even more vibrant to have that dialogue and that collaboration. So I think it takes intention, like a lot of the things that we've been talking about so far, intention and knowing that we might mess up here and there, but being gracious and forgiving with one another, and really all being focused on trying to come together for the sake of enriching everyone's spiritual experiences.
Beautiful. Thank you. And something that is so needed in today's society when there is so much diversity and chaos around diversity. Thank you for sharing that. Beverly, we're going to go next to you.
Okay.
In what ways can sacred spaces be inclusive and welcoming to people from diverse backgrounds and belief systems?
I think if sacred remains sacred, just that, and doesn't become a defining groundwork of what your belief is, it can be so open, and I think, as Anik said before, safe for people. It doesn't become defined by an ideology. It becomes felt. It becomes an experience of something very deeply personal. It can be in here. I have this set up so that when I walk out in the morning, I know that this is a space where I'm going to connect to something more than just the day to day. I don't do my computer work back there. I sit with it. That's my space, but not everyone's going to feel great with Buddha or the Devis and the Devas that I have. So I wouldn't have everyone be there, but it's open for anyone who comes here, wants to be with it. I take people forest bathing. And for me, the sacred space is what invites you in. Stand here with the forest and ask what invites you in. And it becomes very inclusive. You can't step into nature and have it be exclusive. It is so all encompassing, because everyone can find in nature something that is calling to them, talking to them, somewhere that invites them in to feel held. You can ask all the questions you want of nature with knowing that none of your secrets are being given away, that none of your hurts will be shared with others if you don't want them shared. And you can have this all-encompassing experience in that space. So a sacred space should never be thought of as being able to be defined by the one person offering it up. It should be, here it is. What is it for you? How do you need it to be? And then anyone holding that space should just be holding it, allowing everyone to have their experience. And if an individual is on their own, again, it doesn't matter what the belief system is. A belief system has nothing to do with that sense of being part of a larger thing that exists. There's, a hoarder isn't going to feel good in their home because something about their life doesn't feel good. So they're trying to protect themselves, fill themselves up with something. Whereas if you take that person out of that space, bring them into something sacred, where you set intention and hold space, they might have an opportunity to start letting go of those things. And it has nothing to do with a definition. It has nothing to do with a philosophy or a belief. It has to do with our hearts. It has to do with each other and what surrounds us. So I'll try and cut it off there because I know we could go on for
We could go on forever.
hours.
But honestly, I think that both you and Christine have done a wonderful, wonderful job of explaining how the sacred space isn't always what we expect it to be, and sharing the sense of that space invites other people in to bring their sense of sacred space. And perhaps we all grow a little bit from having shared that. Anik, could you fill this out for us, please?
Well, you have to repeat your question for me.
Of course I will. I always do. I do for everybody. In what ways can sacred spaces be inclusive and welcoming to people from diverse backgrounds and belief systems?
I don't want my left brain to interfere with this at all, because for me, everything comes from the heart. Everything that comes from the heart is pure and is inclusive and is sacred. Everything that comes from the heart. As soon as we get into defining with belief, with the mind and all that, it blurs everything. It just becomes chaotic. It just becomes limiting it. But when it's I think, Beverly, you were saying that's something that is really an experience that's really felt, and that's really felt from the heart, with the heart. When our heart is open, I mean, it's everyone feel welcome, everyone feel seen and loved and accepted and heard when it's coming from the heart. Yeah, I'm not resonating so much with that question for some reason. I'm not really vibing it. I just feel like I have to go in my brain and I don't want to go there. I just want to stay in that flow of like really channeling and allowing source to speak through Anik, really, like really allowing to move through and and to soften into this experience. So that's what I would really share. It's like the heart welcomes you. The heart is sacred. The heart says yes to create a sacred, safe, solid space where it's inclusive, where it's loving, where where you can be accepted for who you are. I guess that's what that's
I think you've answered it.
Sacredness is in the heart.
Sacredness is in the heart. And that kind of washes away all of the diverse backgrounds and belief systems, as long as we go heart to heart. Go heart to heart.
That's
and
it.
everybody is included.
That's it. There's no colors involved. There's no language. There's no language separation. I mean, I guess sacredness from the heart abolished separation, because that's where we're suffering. We're suffering in separation, and sacredness is not about suffering. A sacred space is a party place, is a happy place, is a joyful place. That's what I say. I mean, people go to church. I mean, they sing, woohoo, they just want to be together in community. I used to be a fan to go to church as a kid, and I used to love, that was my favorite place to go, because it was a party, like it was community, it was music, it was celebration. That's what sacredness is. It's a celebration of life where everyone's welcome, and let's party. Aho.
I think let's party. Let's party with our sacred spaces and include everybody. Okay. We have come to that sacred place on every panel discussion when each of our panelists has an opportunity to talk a little bit about themselves and what they do, and if they have something that they would like to gift to our viewers. So, Anik, I know you know the drill. If you don't mind, I'm going to let you go last, if that's okay, because that's how it's. Unless you'd like to go first, what would you like to do?
First.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I'll go first. There you go, because I've
Okay,
been
go
first the whole
first.
time. Why not? There you go. You asked me. I choose. I choose.
Okay.
I break the ice here. So in terms of inviting people, if you want to connect, if you vibe with my energy, you will know straight up. We know, we trust your intuition. If you want to connect and come into my world, you have fun, that's for sure, and you'll be fully empowered and uplifted. So there'll be a link, I'm assuming, down below this this video on LinkedIn and Facebook with my link tree. That's the best place to go, because you've got all my channel, YouTube, TikTok, all of the juju that I do, the voice activation, the sound, the mentoring, it's all there. So Linktree is the best place. You're welcome to book a call if you feel in alignment to see if we're fit to work together. And my my offering to do to you is I've got a masterclass to stop worrying about what other people think of you. The 3 essential keys to stop worrying about what others think of you, because the human loves to pinpoint what's wrong and judging and all that stuff. If I've got a pimple in my face or whatever it is. So I highly recommend you watch that masterclass. It's gold. It's worth $300. You've got it for free. You get gold in that. So if you go to my link tree, the masterclass is there. Now, the other invitation, book a call with me on Calendly. You're welcome to. And check out all the offerings are all in Linktree, and treat yourself. I offer powerful voice activation, voice tapping, soul business transmission. They're epic. So yeah, just if you vibe it, gift yourself that, because you're worthy of receiving the best and only the best. And I hope.
Wow, what a great start to our our conversations about what we do. Thank you, Anika, for starting that off with so much energy. Okay. Christine, would you please go next? You got to unmute.
Sure. So yes, sorry, I'm unmuted now, and I need that masterclass. So I'm going to be signing up for that. So I primarily, as I said before, work as a hospital chaplain. I do a lot of writing around that. So if anyone is interested in reading what it's like to, be amongst suffering, and I also provide a lot of practical information around grief and loss, and really how to help others who are going through something that can be quite tragic. So I do have an online newsletter through Substack, which you're welcome to access. It's free. There's no charge for that. And that is Journeying Alongside at Substack. You can also check out my website, christinevdavies.com. And on there, if you would like a free gift, I put together 5 simple spiritual practices you can do today, because I find a lot of the people that I work with in one-on-one spiritual direction think that they have to meditate for 20 minutes or read 15 chapters of the Bible every day. But really, you can infuse the sacred into things that you're already doing. So I will email that to you if you sign up on my website. And I am available for individual spiritual direction sessions as well. And all of the information about that is on my website.
I think that there are so many people who will need what you offer. And I hopefully will take you up on it. Thank you so much for joining us, Christine. And Beverly Ackhurst, tell us about you.
Hello, about me. Hanging out here in Vancouver, Canada, from Montréal originally. Bonjour, Annick. Yep. I am a coach and a facilitator of wellness practices. Everything comes for me from a foundation of yoga, but not, sun salutations. I'm talking the whole of yoga. It's the way of being. It's a way of stepping into life so that you can momentarily, once in a while, have that blissful state of remembering that it's not all about this to-do lists of your day. I am a published author. You can get my book, Heart Whispers. I'm chapter 11. I love that. I'm chapter 11. And that I wrote right after my sister's celebration of life after she passed last year. So I want people to experience life on a more sacred level. I have a program called Sacred Living, and normally I will give my time as a 40-minute block of time. But anyone who's listening to this, what I'd like to do is offer the segment that is Sacred Spaces. And I will offer that up. I'm putting together an ebook as well on optimal living, the things that you can do to actually live the best possible life. I focus on food. I focus on the movements that you do. We are connected to everything, and we can't just do one thing to change our lives. We need to find the language of us. And I like to help people learn that language. I don't know your language, but I'm a great interpreter. So this is where I spend my life, my joy. Everything that we do is a sacred connection. And I would even want possibly add a little, let's throw away here. For anybody who wants to experience sacred, find somebody that you like to start doing this with. Just stand in front of them. Do not say a word. Look them in the eye and stay there looking at them until you feel all that love that's in you in their eyes. It's the most beautiful thing.
Wow.
Oh, sorry. I guess you need to know where to find me too. Oh, we'll just pop right out of that moment, shall we? You can find me at Rhythm of Your Life. Rhythm are the underlying laws of nature that govern everything in the material world. I'm Beverly Ackhurst on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and I'm just happy to share whatever it is that's needed if I have what it is that you need.
And all of our panelists' information, all their clickable links, all their contact information is going to be in the comments below this video once it's been processed and put back onto Facebook and YouTube. So I'm Sue Rumack. I'm the facilitator for this evening's conversation. I am a channeler. I'm a life coach. I'm an overwhelmed strategist. And my specialty, my joy, my excitement, my sacred space, if you want to call it that, is helping highly sensitive people to learn how to protect themselves from the chaotic energies of all the people around them. So if by any chance you happen to suffer from very loud energies all around you that send you into panic mode and into isolation and into hiding, and you need to find yourself in a different way with a different sacred space, one that you feel safe in, get in touch with me, and we can talk about what it takes to get you feeling safe and protected and energetically shielded in your own world so that you create your own sacred space within you. And that is a free one-on-one. It's 60 to 90 minutes. And it's called the Next Steps Life Blueprint. And it's available on my website. All you have to do is click on any blue button when you click on my website, and it'll take you there to make the appointment to talk to me. I'm looking forward to hearing from anybody who wants to talk to me. I'm also, as part of Sacred You, I'm a member at large, and I'm also a tribe host, which means I'm the leader of an interest group called Life Force Activators. How perfect is that with Sacred Spaces? Life Force Activators. And we talk about all kinds of wonderful and exciting things. This week, next week, and probably the week beyond, we're going to be talking about our inner children and how to get playful with them and help them to feel safe and to let go of that sadness or that confusion or the trauma they might have experienced that's still being carried on into your adulthood. We've talked about all kinds of things, including energetic protection, how to say yes to saying yes, and how to say yes to saying no. And those are just, we played with masks. We've created energy balls and tossed them back and forth. It's just a very, very diverse topics group, and we have a lot of fun. We meet every Monday evening, Eastern Standard Time at 8:30 in the evening, and we look forward to meeting you. The links will be in the comments. Sophia, I know you're hiding there in the background. Would you like to come on camera and tell people how they can get in touch with Sacred You, or would you like me to do that?
I think you can do that soon.
Oh, you're so kind to me. You're so
did such a
kind to me.
wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Okay, so sacredyou.love is our host for all these conversations. It is a spiritual community that is so broad and so wide and so global. We reach out to people who are spiritually minded, not necessarily religious, not necessarily connected to any doctrine, but people who want to explore the otherness of being human beings, and all kinds of other topics. We invite entrepreneurs, we invite healers, we invite everyday people who are just searching for something. You might not even know what it is, but our community offers it. And we are also offering a 2-week trial for $1 American. And within that, you can see everything we do, the replays of all these panels that go back at least, well, we know they go back a year and a half and perhaps even beyond. And you can check out all of our tribes. You can join, pop in and out of them and see which ones suit you. And then if you love it, stay. And it'll just take over into a very reasonably priced monthly membership. Have I said everything I need to say? Sophia,
Thank you.
are we
It's
good on that?
wonderful. I'm very good
Okay.
on that. Thank you ever so
Okay.
much. And it really is truly appreciated. And you've done a wonderful job of facilitating. And I'd just like to thank Christine for joining us. I hope it was okay, Christine, for your first time, and you'll be back.
Oh, yes, I loved it. Thank you.
Good. And of course, Beverly and Nick, it's great to see you again both. And Cecilia, it's wonderful to have you with us. And if you've got any questions, you're welcome to stick around afterwards. But for now, I think, Sue, we say farewell until next time. Till next time, let me just tell you very, very quickly. Next week, we have Who Would You Be Without Your Story? That's coming up in just 4 days' time. Just four days' time. Who would you be without your story? And then in 1 week's time, our beautiful Sue is back with Stretching Borders. How far are you willing to extend our future dreams? So very much looking forward to that one.
Me too. Me too. I loved tonight's conversation with all of you because each one of you brought such a unique perspective. So human, so real, so etheric, so otherworldly. Thank you so much for being here. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. Thanks.